All right, so we're going to go ahead and now that we have the torque converter inside the transmission, we're going to go ahead and mount it up to the block and the flex plate here. So one question a lot of people have, like whenever you're removing the engine, is where should I connect my my chains to? So I personally like this bracket all the way back here. This one is right above the exhaust. It's a nice thick bracket. It's held on with some nice thick bolts. This one here, you basically put the bolt in through here, tighten it down on that bracket, and it supports a good bit of weight. And then whenever you have it shifted right, the chain won't hit anything on here. It gets close to the throttle body, but it doesn't actually put any pressure on that. Another spot is here is if you happen to have just some pieces of metal laying around or whatever, but I put this is more of a stabilizer. This one's not even like really tight on there, but this one helps stabilize in the front to back, but the back one here is the one that supports most of the weight on the driver's side. So I just have a couple of small little bolts in there so it sort of flex around, and that helps bring it up and balance front to back. Now on the passenger side, I have the chain that comes down here, and it loops right around here on the exhaust manifold. It just loops around the primary one here on the front. Now if you still have the heat shields on in your car, you're gonna have to remove those, which they can be a bugger. I ended up smashing my one shield whenever I was trying to get it off, because it makes it a pain with that shield on to even be able to get back to remove your exhaust flange bolts in the back. So I got rid of the one, and I have no issue with leaving that off. The other car that I have, it came whenever I got it with a bad engine. It didn't even have them on there at all. So I just looped this one around here and then attached it up through here. And the engine crane that I'm using is actually one of them that I got off of Temu. And it literally looks exactly as the same as the ones you get from Harbor Freight. So you can definitely save probably $100 just by ordering one of them off of Temu. But now let's get back into actually connecting the transmission to the engine. I'm going to jack this up and then I'll start the video back up. All right, so now that we got it hooked up, whenever I start to raise my my engines up, I like to try to make sure that there's even tension, at least on the two primary ones that are coming up, and make sure that it's coming up fairly even and level left to right. The back is obviously just a little bit higher. That's why I'd sort of put this support chain on there. Now if I had one of these that could balance front and back as well, I could definitely get that to work out a little bit better for me. But this is how my setup is for right now. So you can you adjust this, like if you need one side or another needs a little bit more. See, like there, it looks a little bit more level. So we should be able to work with that. Now I'm going to check over here. So the transmission jack doesn't really go any lower, so I'm going to raise the engine up higher to meet the transmission. All right, now that we got that pretty close, go ahead and bring the transmission in close to the engine. And looks like our engine's just a little bit high, so that's okay. So now we can raise the transmission jack up a little bit. All right, now it looks like we're pretty close to our height. Now we can adjust this a little bit to the right so it leans a little to the right like the engine does. Just get it nice and lined up. All right, now I'm going to adjust so that this goes a little bit further forward, leans forward a little bit. And there's just an adjustment under here if you happen to have one of these. Okay, now should go on relatively easy. Just bring it in close, get the line. I'm just eyeballing up the sockets here, and it looks like I still need to come up just a little bit on the transmission. So there we go. This looks like we should be fairly close. And we gotta make sure our dowel pins are lined up as well. Alright, seems like that dowel pin is in. That dowel pin is really close. Now I'm going to put the camera down here for a second. See if we can get the dial pin in the screen. There we go. And as you see, you should be able to pretty much get these all the way in without hardly any force. Just sort of moving them back and forth a little bit, and I'm just using my hands to squeeze this together. The bolts will be able to do the rest of it for us. All right, next, I'm just gonna go ahead and hand thread a few of these bolts in. That way we know they're staying in place. Whenever it just sort of wants to go together nice and smooth like this, you know we're doing all right. And these will require a 17mm socket to tighten down. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and finish putting the rest of these in. But that bell housing bolt from right there is installed from this side. All right, now that I got all of these started by hand, I'm gonna go ahead and actually lower down the transmission jack some. Okay, earlier I had mentioned about how there was 2 of those. There's actually supposed to be 4, but as you're gonna see right here, this is how I know that if you don't have your torque converter on correctly, that if you go to tighten anything down, it's not just gonna go together. It will break off part of that upper oil pan. And this is how I know, because I broke mine off. And then I realized that the torque converter was just not in far enough. So your other one's gonna be here, and then you got another one on the other side, similar to this one. Okay, so yesterday I got a phone call from one of my friends saying his 4-wheeler broke down. And so I went and gave him a hand trying to get that fixed. So I had to stop working on getting this all together yesterday. So where I believe I left off is we got the transmission all bolted up to the engine here, and now we have to connect the flex plate to the torque converter. So to do that, I went ahead and put the transmission, the back side of it, on my transmission jack, and I got some boards to put underneath the oil pan just to help support the engine itself, so that whenever I am reaching underneath there, it gives me enough space to get back in here. So we're gonna need some space to access this area here. And I also didn't want to just suspend it from the engine hoist and then risk just simply potentially the engine falling on me. So I have it resting on those blocks, and that I'm sure you can figure out some other way to elevate it or stabilize, or might even be able to do it just straight from the ground, but it'll be a lot more tight quarters trying to get that to work. So I'm going to go ahead and, well, hello Coco, grab my flex plate torque converter bolts, and we'll get them ready to go. For our bolts that connect in under here to our flex plate, those are going to be 38 foot-pounds of torque. So, grab our torque wrench, put them on there,
I was close, but not perfect. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and finish doing the rest of these. Oh, that one's already good.
Okay, so if your holes aren't quite lined up enough, you'll come out and like how we're so close right there, you'll put a 19 millimeter socket out here. On your crank pulley, and then you're just going to rotate a little bit, you know, because you want to go clockwise, so you're going to be tightening the bolt, and then you're just going to move it just like, I know mine's pretty close in there right now because I was using the preview on the camera and looking at it on my phone to get them lined up. If you don't have that, it works best if you got two people, or you just move it in small increments and keep checking. So I just moved it a little bit. I'm hoping that we're lined back up. Let's see, are we lined up? Okay, so it seems like we're fairly lined up here. I was able to get the bolt started, so it feels like it is. Now what I'm gonna do is, eventually I'm gonna put Loctite on these, but to start off with, I'm just gonna sort of get them hand threaded in to make, and then just sort of tighten them up just a little bit. Just so that I make sure that I'm not cross threading anything, and try to get them torqued pretty evenly. So I'm gonna grab my 14 millimeter because these are a 14 millimeter bolt, and so we're just gonna get our ratchet. Just give a just ever so slight twist, just to, like if you thought you were cross threading at this point, you would know. I'm just barely putting any effort into it. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and rotate the engine again. That really gave a nice jump. And there's our next hole, is what you can see in there. It's pretty lined up, so our bolts should be good to go. Now for this one, I'm going to go ahead and put my Loctite on, which is just some blue Loctite. Helps to keep things from vibrating or twisting loose in there. Just a little bit of Loctite. And just kind of repeat putting these in. Maybe. Just get them started by hand. And I'm going to repeat for the other two just to get them started, and then I'm going to start back all over at the very first one, and then I'm going to get them torqued down to the correct torque spec, which I believe is 38 foot-pounds. I will put a little note on the video here if that is incorrect. Okay, so that was correct. It is 38 foot-pounds. Okay, now I have them, all of the bolts started, and I have blue Loctite on them all, including the original one. Now we're going to set our torque wrench to the correct torque, and we're going to go ahead and torque these down. Now, I have a long socket here with my torque wrench. I'm still going to need a small extension just to clear the upper oil pan here to make it easier on myself. So grab yourself a short extension with a long socket. set your torque wrench to 38, and we'll get these torqued down. So because the space is a little bit tight under here, I'm just using my regular 3/8 inch drive ratchet just to sort of snug them up without really torquing. Just give it a little snug, and then put the big old torque wrench up there. And I actually end up putting a universal joint on to be able to get it, because my torque wrench is just a little bit too bulky to get a nice good straight angle on it. So once we get it torqued down, we'll rotate and we'll do the rest of them. So I forgot to mention that whenever you go to torque these down, you may have to grab your other ratchet that's already on your crank pulley that you were using to rotate the engine. You may have to flip it to the loosen position and just hold on to it while you are tightening these ones here, so that the engine doesn't continue to rotate. That, or you can potentially put that into park, I think. I can't remember if that would work or not with it being disconnected, but that's not the route I'm going. But I'm going to use the ratchet here because I know that works for sure. So I just switched it over to the loosen position, held it, and then cranked this one down to get it to go. You can see if you don't hold that ratchet, how the engine will rotate. So like I was showing you earlier, just flip it to the loosen position, grab a hold of the other ratchet, and give it a pop. Got one more left. Rotate around to our last one. As you see, they're all pretty well hand loose still, because we just sort of snugged them up just enough to be able to rotate it around. Grab the small one. Pretty much just as you go to tighten it, and you'll see the engine start to move like that, you'll know that it's time to switch over to the torque wrench. Grab your other wrench again. And we're all tightened up. Now if you have your dust shield, you can put your dust shield back on here. I, however, don't have a dust shield for this one, so I won't be reinstalling that. But I will be putting the starter back on it and everything before I install it back into the car. But for this video, that was the main part, was getting the torque converter back attached to the flex plate. If you found this video informative, please hit the like button, comment if you know how to do anything different or give any other advice. Consider subscribing for more videos. Thanks.